So recently I put out a video about potentially moving from Windows to Linux in the future, and I haven't been sleeping on that. I've actually been distro hopping a lot. Like, you can see on this thumb drive, this is Ventoy, and so I've got like Debian, Endeavor, Fedora in a couple flavors, Mint, Nobara, OpenSUSE, Void, and you don't even see stuff I've deleted like Ubuntu and some other distros that I've been working through. And I've also been doing a lot of research, reading a lot of forum posts, watching videos on YouTube for recommendations about what you should be using, and what I've really learned is that no matter what you pick, it's stupid. You made the wrong choice. And so I figured I'd save everybody time, and I'd just condense all of this into one place so that you can learn here and now why your Linux distribution sucks. So let's go ahead and start with Debian. And the D stands for default, because this is the default recommendation for everything. And, Debian's great as long as you don't actually intend to use your computer. Like if you got a server or Raspberry Pi that's just going to sit there and it's just going to be on, but you actually don't need to do anything, well, then Debian's great. Or if your hardware is like from the Obama era. I mean, that's a great tagline. Debian, welcome to 4 years ago. I mean, seriously, you know what their experimental NVIDIA drivers are? They're from last fall. That's experimental. You're never getting explicit sync. I mean, maybe 2026. And then you got all the Debian coattail riders, the biggest of which is Ubuntu, right? Ubuntu was cool like, 10 years ago? It's just Debian with extra steps. The upside, you get to use snaps, which are a lot like Flatpaks, except worse. And plus it's, canonical, so it's probably going to spy on you. Or you got Mint, which is cool right now, and it's just Ubuntu with extra steps. So that means it's basically just Debian with yet another desktop manager that doesn't support Wayland. And then you got Sparky /MX /Parrot /Papos /Kali whatever else you want to roll out there that is basically just Debian wearing a costume. All these things are basically people that wanted their own distro, but maintaining packages are hard and that takes a community. And so what do? Well, they just throw a different desktop manager at Debian and then target new users who don't know any better. Now you could go the opposite end of the spectrum, go with a rolling release distro like Arch, right? Except Arch isn't actually an operating system. It's a hobby. Seriously, if you look through any recommendation list for operating systems for people that actually need to do something useful, make money and this computer's got to be for a critical process, you'd never see anybody recommending Arch like that because, well, your computer's going to be broken all the time. It's mostly only useful for dorks that think other people care how good they are at using computers. And then you got the Arch follow-ons like Manjaro or Endeavor, which are basically just Arch for idiots. They come with all the downsides of a rolling distro like Arch without the upside of at least getting some bragging rights out of it. You're not going to be able to use Manjaro and tell people I use Arch, by the way. And if you really want to go hardcore, you go with Gentoo, which is Linux for dorks. Nobody actually uses this thing, right? It exists purely for clout chasing. It has no practical use. You might as well just build your own distro at this point, because that's basically what you're doing. So some people might try to split the difference, get something that's more current, but also more stable, and they say, Fedora, the Goldilocks, but with, corpo rot. It's controlled pretty much by IBM, and they believe in free open source software so much that they shut down downstream access to RHEL. And again, it's probably going to spy on you. Look, I'm using Fedora right now. And hey, look, you can trust me because I'm a real Linux YouTuber, and you can tell because I've got an ASCII logo in a terminal window. And I'm sure somewhere out there you got some people that are trying to push out Alma or Rocky, which, come on, just Control-C, Control-V already. They're all mad because Red Hat won't let them copy their homework anymore. They're not even their own thing. They're literally just trying to be something else. Or you could go with maybe OpenSUSE, right? It's basically Fedora for Europeans, except with the slowest package manager known to man built in. And again, they got the corpo right. But maybe you think, no, I am a pure soul. I'm going with the OG. We're going to roll out some Slackware. Come on, seriously, don't lie. You've never installed it. And if you've ever installed Slackware, it was purely so that you could tell people that, you used to run Slackware for 2 days before you ripped it out and actually installed a modern, useful distribution. Or maybe you're one of those void weirdos, right? I mean, it's basically the hipster distro. Its only real function is to let people say that they use a distro that nobody else has ever heard of. And finally, I mean, I guess we could mention, like, I don't know, Alpine, that only exists because that dude is out there saying, well, it's actually new Linux. And so people can be like, no, Alpine, it's just Linux. And yes, as a sidebar, I did pronounce new correctly.
New, 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 new.
You don't get to use a word that's existed for 100 years and then tell everybody else that they're pronouncing it wrong. I mean, unless you're Dutch or German, and then it actually is pronounced GNU. But you're probably not, so stop lying to yourself. It's new. And I guess we can wrap this up like this. If your OS wasn't mentioned, there's a reason why. It's because you're using a distro that's so bad that it's not even worth making fun of. Seriously, nobody uses it, nobody cares. And what other conclusion can we draw except that it doesn't matter what distro you pick. You picked the wrong distro. Your distro sucks.